Yeah, man, the Shirley Batty show. I never kind of show more I watch on TV. Hey, my selector, fire it up. Go on, Shirley. Easy.
Shirley Batty Show. Everybody knows it's the Shirley Batty Show. Oh, I love me. Oops. And he
Well, hello, soldier. Oh my God, he's handsome, isn't he?
Yes, well, I'm not going to say, what did I say?
Because he's handsome.
Stop it, I don't behave yourself.
Sorry. Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you? Hey, you okay?
Oh,
How are you?
well, I'm not too bad. Oh my God, this is why I should join the army.
Is that why you should join?
Yes, because you get people like him so fit.
Behave yourself.
Okay, so, Mike, can you tell us about yourself?
Yes, I'll tell you a little bit about me from, well, I'm sorry. I attended school in Croydon and
Did you shut up? Mike, just carry on interviewing.
Sorry.
went to school in Croydon
Mhm.
in Langfrank High School and, stayed there from my first year right until leaving school when I was 16. I then went and got an apprenticeship as a trainee electrician, and I studied for 4 years. My course was a 4-year apprenticeship, and when I got to year 3 of my apprenticeship, I was working at a company, and day release at Croydon College. Something said to me, "I've got to do something else. I've got to do something else."
Okay.
And where I lived, I lived on the borders of Norbury and Thornton Heath, which is North Croydon.
Mm-hmm.
There was an army careers office around the corner, and I always used to walk past it, look in the windows, and I thought, wow, should I or should I not? And then one Tuesday, I'll never forget it, it was a Tuesday afternoon, Mum was doing lunch. I said to my mum, "I'm just going to be 5 minutes, Mum. I'm just going around the shops to get something." I went to the Army Careers Office and I said I wanted to join the Army.
Wow.
And they took me through the procedure there. I sat down and spoke to the careers officer and he said, "What would you want to do?" and everything. Anyway, we did a series of tests. They gave me a sheet of all the jobs I can do.
Okay.
And I originally wanted to join the Guards. I wanted to be one of those soldiers standing outside Buckingham Palace.
All right.
But as back then, it's sad to say, but we've moved on. Back in the 80s, you never ever saw a black guardsman outside Buckingham Palace. Now,
It's very true.
and then I remember telling the careers officer that what I wanted to do, and he said to me, "How long are you going to sign up for, son?" And these words I shall never forget. He said, I told him, and he said, "If you want to spend the rest of your days peeling potatoes, go ahead. But I would strongly advise you not to."
Wow.
That was a good advice I took. So me not knowing much about the army, I decided, right, he has to show me a list. And he showed me a list of the regiments, all the regiments. I thought about, I don't know why I thought about them. I thought about the Royal Military Police because I liked their hats, their red beret. And I decided, you know what, go down the list, have a look. And then I came across the Royal Green Jackets.
Wow.
And he said to me, I asked the guy, what are they like? And he turned around to me and he said, they're a very, very good regiment. So I decided I'm going to go for that. And I decided, yep, Royal Green Jackets it will be. Because they mainly recruited from London. So I thought I'm going to be with other Londoners. But they also recruited from Birmingham, Liverpool, and for some unknown reason, in the northeast, Sunderland. Large contingent of lads came from Sunderland in the northeast of the country. Darlington, Middlesbrough, Hartlepool, and Newcastle. But I decided I signed all the papers. I was old enough, and then I went back home. Now, I said to my mum, I'm going to be 5 minutes. I was more like 2 hours.
My goodness.
And I could see my mum being a Jamaican woman. I could see my mum. I would say, she was fuming. Where have you been? Come here. So anyway, cut a long story short, I ended up saying to my mum, Mum, I've joined the army. And her words to me, don't be so damn stupid. So anyway, I said, Mum, I've joined the army. I showed her the forms, and my mum, it broke my heart. She cried there and then.
Oh.
She said to me, "You're going to die in Northern Ireland," because obviously Northern Ireland was the height at its height in the 80s. So anyway, I told my mum, and it came to the time I had to go for selection to a place called Sutton Coldfield, just outside Birmingham.
Okay.
And I went up there, did the selection, fitness tests, everything, you name it, I done it. Then it came to the time where I had to go to Winchester, and that was in oh God, what year was that? 1980. Anyway, I went to Winchester. I got on with training, and I injured myself in my first, week? I think it was week 14 of training.
Okay.
I broke my leg.
Ouch.
Anyway, I had to 20 weeks of training. I was over halfway, and it was sad because I had to come away. So I recovered after about 18 months. So there was 2 breaks in my leg.
Oh dear. Ouch.
So I went back again in 82, the end of 82, and then got through training, which was so hard. I sometimes look back at myself and I say to myself, how the hell did I do it?
Wow.
Some of the stuff they put us through was unbelievable, and it was tough. But I managed, and the proudest moment was finishing my training after 20 odd weeks. And my mum and my auntie and my uncle came down and watched me pass out.
Wow.
My first place I went to my first posting was Germany, a place called Minden in northern Germany. The battalion was there for 10 years. I think I was there for about 4 of them. And then in that time, we went to Northern Ireland, which wasn't pleasant, but it was hard work and very interesting times. And all I could say is, there's some friends, I wish they were back here. They were here today, but they're not. That's all I would say. They're not here. But life goes on. Worked hard. One thing I would say, I'm proud, so proud that I served. After I came out of the army in 1988, I applied to join the prison service. Well, actually, I went for 2 jobs: the police and the prison service. And the prison service came up first. And I just bought my first house in Castleton, near Sutton, just outside Croydon. And I needed money to, for my mortgage and everything else. So I thought, I've got a career with the prison service. After I spent, 11 weeks of training in a place called Newbold Revel in the Midlands. And I got back and went to my first prison, which was Wandsworth Prison.
Wow.
In South London. I spent 11 years there at the Wandsworth Prison, But the thing was, my very first time after my training, I went to Wandsworth. I was given my wing, which I was going to be working on, which is B wing, and I was told which landing I was going to be on, and just follow the other officers when it came to unlocking the prisoners. And I'll never, ever, ever forget. Came to my last 3 cells, walking down the landing, unlocking the prisoners to get out to go and do that, for them to go and shower, toilet, everything else. And the 3rd cell from the end, I'll never forget it. As I open the door, I see 2 guys I recognise. I'm not going to name them because out of respect for them, but there were 2 guys I went to school with.
Wow.
Yes, 2 guys who I knew as friends, and that was weird. And I remember my first thing I ever said. I said, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Yeah. Oh dear. That's not good.
And they were both serving 9 years for an armed robbery. And so that was interesting, meeting up with the first guys, or the first cells I unlocked 2 guys who were school friends.
Oh dear, that must have been very difficult for you.
It was difficult, but you had to be professional, and that's what I was. That's what I was, having left the army after those years, and you learn to be professional.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as if I was going to ignore them. I never ignored them, but I came across. They weren't the only 2 guys I'd met from school who I went to school with at Langfranc. There were a few guys who were there, and some of these guys I knew very, very, very well. They were friends who I'd go out with, friends who I'd go to football with. We used to go to watch Crystal Palace, and they were friends who I'd go with all the time. But we all take our different paths. Who take our different paths when we leave school, etc., etc. And I chose to go with the army. I chose the prison service. In 1998, 99, I decided, because I was living on the south coast at the time, I'm going to transfer. So I transferred to a little prison, local prison, near Brighton called Lewis Prison. It was completely different from when I was at Wandsworth. Wandsworth was a no-nonsense, strict prison back in the 80s. Really strict, no-nonsense prison. One at Lewis was, well, I just hated it. Hated every moment of it. I decided, right, after 2.5 years, I'm going to leave. I decided, I got to my 14th year in the prison service, and I said, you know what, I'm leaving. And
why did you hate Lewis so much? What was so bad about it?
Can you say again, please?
Why did you hate Lewis so much?
Why?
Yeah.
There was no discipline there. There was nothing there. Unfortunately, there was a lot of things which got in to the prison, which illegal contraband got into the prison, and I was. I'm sorry.
No, that's not good, is it? Really?
No, it's not. Definitely not. No, definitely not. And I decided what I'm going to do. I had the exit interview, and the #1 governor said, "Why are you leaving after so long?" And I said, "Listen, I'm fed up of going home high as a kite, driving home high as a kite, because the fumes was in the air." I'll leave it to your imagination what I'm talking about.
Oh dear.
So I decided that's it, and I've got to leave. It was difficult. By then, I had 3 children, married, got a house on the south coast, and I needed to, I needed work. I was still quite young, relatively young.
You're still young now.
I wish I was, but thank you very much. I like that. And I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply for the police. And I applied for the police. And it was interesting because I went for the interview, went for the entrance exams, and on my interview, it was really strange. I remember having someone from HR, and I had a chief inspector and a superintendent, and all they wanted to know was what I'd done in the past. Nothing about policing, nothing, and all I did was spoke to them about the army, the prison, and I'll never forget it. Never forget, after what I think was about 40 minutes having this interview, seemed like an eternity. And I came out and they said, I remember the chief inspector coming out to me and saying, "You've got it."
Wow, amazing.
And he said, unofficially, I wasn't told, but he says, "You've got it." I thought that was the easiest part of it, but it wasn't. Training school was even worse.
Oh my goodness.
Training school was even worse. You've got to remember, I went to Langfranc. I wasn't a saint. I wasn't an angel. And I was asked to leave before I took my exams,
Oh dear.
put it that way. So I came out of school with hardly any qualifications. Having gone through the entrance exam to the police, I had to get a friend to sit down with me and go through the basics of English, maths, you name it. I had to go through it, and I had to learn it quick. And I remember going for the interview up at where was it? Paddington Green Police Station. And I'll never ever forget saying sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll never forget. There was 20 of us who took the exam, and there was some of them who were flying through those question papers. And whilst they were on number 20, I was probably on number 2, question number 2.
Oh dear.
Anyway, they went through the entrance exam. After about an hour, they called out 14 names and left 6 of us in the classroom.
Wow.
And me being a big mouth at the time as I was saying, "No, I can't believe it. Look at us. We're all thick, all stupid and everything." And they came back. I remember the sergeant coming back and he says, "I'd like to say, congratulations, you've all passed."
Wow. Wow.
But I couldn't believe it because I had to question him. So I put my hand up like that. And I said to him, "Are you sure?" And he laughed and he says, "Yes, you've all passed." But I think the army put me in good stead for my career right through to the police. So, I did 8 years in the army, 14 years in the prison, and 17 with the police.
Done you.
So, I'm fortunate now, I've retired from the police, which is nice. But, I always look back and I think the army put me in good stead. I made some of the best, most friends who are now brothers. I know that if there was anything, I could call upon those guys tomorrow, 24 hours of the day, and say, "Listen, I need help." And wherever they are in the country, they will come and help me. I know that.
Amazing. That's amazing. Wow. What a wonderful story. And I'm so proud of you that you supported our country the way you did. Is there anything you'd like to say, especially for Remembrance Day?
Yes, Remembrance Day is going to be a day for remembering those brothers and sisters, or my brothers and sisters in arms, who are no longer here. It's a day that I will never, ever forget those guys who I've served with and I can think of 4 right now, 5 right now, who never came home. And it gives me that little bit of solace just to think of them and remember those guys who I served with also, and those guys who fought for yours, mine, all our this freedom of the UK, of this country. A lot of people get a bad press saying, you know, this was started, we started this, we started that. Listen, we're here today to tell that story.
That's right.
We didn't want this, you know, at the end of the day, our country was saved from Nazism. This country was saved from Nazism, i.e., we could have easily all been invaded, and you, me for sure, definitely wouldn't be here today. And one thing I am, and I'm going to say, I'm proud, I'm a patriotic, I love my country, and no one will ever take that from me. And I'm glad to have served my country and continue to support my country, the country I love, the country of my birth, and the country I love. You
Michael,
know,
carry on, sorry.
so I'm sorry, go on, carry on.
No, I thought you finished. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's just, you know, it gives me a lump in my throat every time we talk or people ask. And you think, I'm part of that family, that massive family, irrespective where we came from. Could have come from the Navy, you could have come from the RAF, could have come from the Army, where we're all as one, one big happy family who served this country. And that's what I'm glad and proud to say, and I'm glad to share this with you. As I say, I was so glad to share it with you, and I'm so glad that you've actually spoke to me.
Oh, Michael, I just want to say thank you, and on behalf of the whole of the UK, that we appreciate what you did for our country. I salute you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and I'll salute you also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You take care.